Sakamoto Days Part 2. Yup, gonna finally be talking about this anime once and for all, and this honestly is the first time I talked about this, believe it or not. I talked about Sakamoto Days Part 1 a couple months back from very early this year, and let's just say that I was amazed with the show. I liked it, but I knew that they're going into that first half of Sakamoto Days that there's something holding it back from being like really good. And part two, going into this one that's finally here and about and has finally concluded, I can confidently say that it's still good. I think this is a lot better than the first half of the first season, but not by a long shot, unfortunately. But I'm going to explain the good, the bad, and how I feel about the show more or less. So once again, Sakamoto Days Part 2, this is the follow-up to the first Sakamoto Days that came out back in the winter 2025 season, which, as I touted, was a really good show for its time and really was the catalyst to what is to come to Sakamoto Days. And again, the comparison to the show is still pretty much ringing as day. This franchise, from the comedy to the humor to the action and fight sequences and the way the show is animated and the voice acting is delivered, is reminding me one to one to the likes of Spy Family or the likes of One Punch Man or even the likes of Sakamoto Desuga, a pretty underrated show from 2016, mind you. And Sakamoto Days was a show that when this came out back in the winter season, this was super high on the top for the most highly anticipated anime of that year. But it of course wasn't able to be number one because Solo Season 2 was dominating that season, respectfully. And I think I remember saying this from my original video that this show, when the first season of the show came out, it had a lot of potential. But this show came out of the gate with the train wheels on, with the knock and boppers. Like it wasn't setting itself apart from other shows that have done and gone this angle in the past, like Spy Family, like One Punch Man, for example. And I knew that going to Sakamoto Days Part 2, especially with how that huge cliffhanger in this first half was, this had to be either going big or going home. And Sakamoto Days Part 2, I can confidently say that after watching all 11 episodes of the show, I think that the show is really good. It's definitely a lot better than the first half of this first part of the season. God, again, that trend fucking sucks. But I will say that this show still, unfortunately, is still having like the train wheels on. Like it's still holding itself back. And what do I mean by that? So the way I mean this is that the first five episodes of the show are really good, are absolutely incredible. I think that the hype and the anticipation that where the first season left off really was able to go into this second half of this season, in my opinion. And again, the first season really highlights the prisoners that escaped and is now going to come after Sakamoto after he got pinned with like a bounty on his head. And of course, with the likes of Shin in the mix, we get to see Shin grow and mature as a character who also gets to unlock more psychic powers that we weren't able to see in the first half of this show. And in the second half, we get to see that full display, and it's like really good, really clean, really such a badass moment for him that we see Shin develop as such a nice but mature and like threatening character for what the franchise has to offer. And the prisoners in the show are absolutely good. I'm not gonna highlight every single one of them, of course, because unfortunately we run into one issue right off the bat. The prisoners in these episodes at the very beginning only last for like 2, 3 episodes long. Aside from Apart. Apart is probably one of the better four serial killers that were released from that prison arc, more or less. And his character design is absolutely incredible. His story as to why he became the serial killer that he is really cool. It's really heartfelt, and the lead up to the real villain as to who was responsible for releasing all four serial killers at our main character Sakamoto would be revealed to be Slur or Kei Uzuki himself. And basically his ambitions to why he wants to take down JCC and take down anyone that stands his way is about as predictable as everyone would expect of a main villain. And it's cool, it's amazing, I like it. And again, like I said, from episodes 1 through 5, the momentum of the show carries super, super well. A lot of the best fight sequences in this second half of Sakamoto Days is present within the first 5 episodes, especially when Sakamoto and Slur come to this final confrontation towards each other. There's even also a little shout out to do with Gaku, who is also another protagonist that works with Slur. Gaku's character is so badass. His character design is like really menacing, and he's just kind of like the I don't give a fuck kind of type of assassin. But at the same time, he's like super menacing and like really kick ass to say the least. And as I mentioned already, Sakamoto Days Part 2 is really good. It has all those strong qualities of a really good shonen anime. But then sixth episode rolls on and the final episode rolls on. Like the second half of this second half here just is where it falls apart in my opinion. Because from this point forward, this is where I feel like we run into a bit of a roadblock. And the problem is that the show is now back into like playing it safe and it's just like, okay, now we're going to go into a different arc after the events of the first five episodes where now we gotta recruit some new members because Slur has a plan to recruit new members from this JCC training staff exam arc that's going on, and we gotta make sure that he doesn't hire anyone in his cause. And throughout this, we get to meet new characters like Mafiu and Akira Ako and now Toramora. And all three of these characters are obviously really good, super colorful. They have their own different personalities and different abilities as assassins, respectfully. And they're all really, really good, especially with the illusion of who Akira Akao is and her connection to Sakamoto to a degree. And the same with her connection to Sakamoto, but in a different, weird angle, you could say. So again, all three of these characters are really good, and I love their introduction to where we get to know them, get to see how they kick ass and take names. But then, like I said, I just feel like from that point forward, it's just playing it so formulaic, so predictable by the book that I'm not really like blown away, unfortunately. Because while the fight sequences are still there, the voice acting's still there, the music for the show is still kicking ass. I gotta say that I feel like we've seen this type of build up from the first half of Sakamoto Days, if I'm not mistaken. Like I feel like we just kind of recycled the same formula over and over again. Like, don't get me wrong, I love our new three new characters here, and obviously Mafia is probably my favorite character of the new ones. I'm gonna say that right here, right now. Honorable mention definitely goes to Akira Akao in the second half, but like I said, I just feel like they're playing it way too safe again. I feel like they're just sticking to the same formula that made it really enjoyable to watch to begin with. And the way today's episode ended today is undoubtedly the same way the first half of Sakamoto Days ended, where it ends on a really strong cliffhanger and a bit of a teaser, like, okay, what's to come? Because clearly this is going to have a second season. This is definitely going to be, this more or less has been announced at this point that a second season is on the way. They even showcase a little bit of like some teaser animations of what's to come in the next arc where they're now at the JCC school and they're going to stop Slur and his ambitions from coming true. But like I said, I there's not a whole lot I can really say about the show and really praise it enough because I just think that unfortunately the show is just still stuck in the same place that it's at. So yeah, overall, the show is still really good. There are some strong highlights that for a show of this caliber to be really great, but you also have to understand where this is from. The fact that this show is also airing the same season that Dawn on season two is airing, or Biscuit Doll season two, Gotcha Kuta, which honestly is probably one of the better newer shows come out of this season right now. Even Call the Night season two and Kaiju number eight season two is bringing up their A game. And honestly, Kaiju number eight isn't season two is probably not the strongest compared to the first season, but at least this one's still like still worth talking about. In the case of Sakamoto Days Part Two, I'm not really gaining that excitement that I was hoping for. So unfortunately, I there isn't a whole lot I can say about this to praise it and say like this is my anime of the year. This to me is just okay. It's good. It's not terrible, but it's not pushing itself to being like I'm amazed, I'm loving it, and I would be this is a show I would recommend checking out. So again, I think with that being said, I still would give it the same rating, strong 6 to a light 7. And to wrap up this review, if I had to now rate both of these shows overall, because there's a part 1 and a part 2, the whole Sakamoto Days part 1 part 2, I would pretty much just give it a 7, a light 7 in general. It's good, it's great, but I just feel like if they're going to continue the same formula that we just seen from the first half, going to the second half, and going to season two, because I know season two is going to be coming up with this show sometime in the future, I just don't know if it's going to really stand tall in the long haul. So yeah, pretty disappointing of a show. It's great, but I'm just disappointed in general, and unfortunately, and that's all I gotta say. That's it. I'll see you on the next one. Later.